Bonjour, bonsoir, dear friends. Welcome to JCB Live. I'm so excited today. I have energy like there's no tomorrow. She's electric, she's magnetic, she's vibrational, and she knows how to use her senses more than any one of us. She's a star, world recognized in terms of her nose, her sense of smell. She started an amazing company, Sniff Appaloosa. Karen is phenomenal in the world of copywriting, TV, and now fragrance. So we're delighted to have her coming all the way from New York to be with us because she's the artist of fragrance and she recognizes that wine and fragrance go together, and beyond going together, they enhance one another. So I'm delighted, dear friends, to introduce her to you with a French kiss. Karen, bonjour.
Bonjour, bonsoir.
Comment ça va?
Ah, ça va très bien.
So, Karen, we're going to do the most phenomenal noise that the world has ever heard. I know you're all about senses.
I am.
Are we ready?
I'm ready.
Look.
Woo!
Look
I love
at
it.
this.
I love it. The French kiss. I love it.
So this is a wine, Karen, you've never seen in the stores because it's only sold at the tasting lounge and through ambassadors. It marries the beautiful lips you
I
have
love these lips. These are great.
at both levels, yours and those.
Thank you.
And this is only 8% of alcohol wine.
It's perfect for me because I can't drink too much because I get unbearably wonderful.
Well, we love it. Luckily, we have a lot of company of bubbles today.
Yeah, so
Welcome to Napa Valley via France.
love it.
So, Karen, first question before you describe the wine. Isn't it enjoyable?
I love it. I love it. It's almost the perfect balance of sweetness, but not too sweet.
That's
It's a
right.
very nice balance. I'm getting a little bit of citrus in there. It's very nice.
That's it.
Yeah. It's
So, dear friends, this is actually Gamay. It's a demi-sec, and it's only 8% of alcohol. So it's a wine we love because it's really shameless in its approach. Gamay, and then a little bit of phenomenal raspberry feel and cherry and strawberry.
I get that.
Do you see that color?
Yeah, the color is beautiful.
So, Karen, you followed your passion.
I did.
And dear friends, don't we love the show as Follow Your Passion? So how did that happen?
You know, it's really interesting. It was almost like the universe had a plan for me somehow.
Yes.
I've loved fragrance since I'm 4 years old. I mean, I can clock it to the day that it happened. I know the day it happened. My grandmother,
Yes.
Rose Sherman, great lady, born in 1900. She's not with us anymore, obviously, but she worked her whole life and in the 1960s decided that she wanted to start traveling. She had worked, she had a business. She was the first woman in Philadelphia. We're from Philadelphia originally. She had a first woman owner of a supermarket on the East Coast.
Wow.
She married her husband, taught him how to cut meat. They opened a meat market. I mean, she worked and her whole
And
life.
a Renaissance woman, it seems. Someone
And
who creates.
back then, they sent the boys to college, not the girls. So she would have been great. But she was a businesswoman. And, you know, after all that, she wanted to see the world. Her husband didn't want to. He wanted to stay home and trim the rose bushes and, you know, do what he wanted to do. So she set off on, I believe it was the Queen Mary. And I helped her pack for the trip. Big trunk with lavish big trunks. Back then, you could do a whole huge cruise, mink stoles and satin dresses and
the real way to
she
celebrate
did a
and
3
cross
month.
the
She did a
Atlantic.
3 month trip to Europe,
Wow.
and it was very. Women didn't travel by themselves back then, not at all. You know, and it was very bold of her to do, but nothing ever kept her back. And she did this trip to Europe, and when she came back, and I helped her unpack. She had brought me soaps from the little soaps from the hotel she stayed at, the Connaught in London,
Well,
the Savoy,
one of the finest hotels in
the
London.
Savoy in London, the Ritz in Paris.
But of course.
And I loved them. I loved the smell, but I loved also the colorful graphic packaging.
Yes.
And I just could not, I just kept smelling them and bring them to my nose, and I kept them in a little shoebox. Well, Rose was really smart. And the next trip she did, which I think later that year, because she really became addicted to traveling, she brought back little perfumes. She noticed my interest, and I remember it was Chanel No. 5.
A good way to start.
Joy by Patou. Ma Grief, which was by Carven.
Yep.
And Tweed, and I think there was another one, but and the beautiful little perfume bottles. I had them lined up on my dresser, and I loved them.
And you were studying that already.
Well, I just was smelling them all the time, and when people ask me, how do I learn about fragrance? How do I train my nose? The best thing you can do is smell as much as you can.
That's right.
And I was always smelling them, and when I was 6 years old, I bought my first serious perfume. Arpège by Lanvin.
Oh.
Way too sophisticated for a 6-year-old, but it never occurred to me. I just know that when I started smelling these things, something changed within me. Something like opened up, lit up. And I realized I process everything through my senses. I think with my nose. I realized this
I think with my nose.
I realized this very early on.
Yeah.
I bought the Lanvin Arpège, and my mom was really, she was, always encouraging of any interest I had. My family was great about it, And years later, it's a black lacquered bull bottle with gold figures on it. Years later, I looked at it and realized it's a mother and a child on there. And they were wearing costumes like for a costume ball. I never realized that until I looked at years later. It was a mother and child. Here, a little 6-year-old wearing something that was way too sophisticated, but it didn't matter. I wore fragrance all the time. I started wearing men's fragrances at 10. Ralph Lauren chaps. It was woody, patchouli. It's actually a great fragrance. I mean, I bought it in the corner drugstore, whatever. But it never occurred to me that a 10-year-old girl couldn't wear a man's fragrance. And when you talk to a perfumer, and I know you know this, a perfumer will say, we don't make them for men or women, we make them for people. It's in the marketing that it gets decided.
That's right.
This is more feminine, this is more masculine.
Explain us, because in history, in any case, we did not differentiate male and female.
Exactly. So me wearing a man's fragrance with woods and patchoulis and, interesting spicy notes, it was great, and I loved it. And that started me off really. I mean, I was very bold with my fragrances. I can chronicle every part of my life by the fragrances I wore. I've had signatures here and there, but I always just wore a lot of, I like to collect different things.
And did you, at that stage, wanted it to make your life? Because you went in advertising, copywriting.
I never thought about that. It was just my passion. And, I graduated, I got a master's in psychology from Hunter College in New York. And while I was finishing up, I was offered a job at Hunter as a college counselor, which is, part of the psych. But a part of me really loved media and theater and TV and film. I'm huge with all media. I love especially film and theater. And I said, maybe I can get a job in advertising. I had a friend who was a copywriter, really senior copywriter at it, and he used to talk to me about his job, and he had me come to some of the shoots for some of the commercials he did. And I'm like, I want to do this. So I figured I'll try to get a job. I went out. Back then you could look in the newspaper for jobs. Remember those days?
For sure.
Yeah, you could look and living in New York, like all the major ad agencies had listings for jobs. So I took an entry-level job at a place called Compton, which was really famous at the time. It's no longer around. Doing like whatever they needed. I was going to assist in the art department. I was going to assist in and the funny thing is, I got that job. I walked downstairs, put my hand in my pocket, and I pulled out a card of a man that I had met at a party a few weeks ago. My mother owned an Art Deco store in Soho, and he owned an ad agency, and it was right across the street. I said, oh my God, I should go say hi to him. He was really nice, not even thinking about a job. I went in and I said, I don't know if he's going to remember me, Howard Marks Advertising, but I met him at a party a few weeks ago, and he said, if you're ever a neighbor, say hi. I'm here to say hi. She said, come right back, and he offered me a job. I said, but I just took one at Compton. He said, here's the phone, call them up. I'll pay you more. I've been looking for you. So I got my start in advertising.
I love it.
But here's the other cool part of this, which is a little wacky. But
entrepreneurial.
Well, here's a little wacky part, and I think you can take it. So as I started working...
I hope. Let me breathe.
As I started working there, I started a few weeks later, and entry level. I said, I just want to learn everything you can teach me. I want to learn about
the
media
right
buying.
attitude.
I want to learn everything. I want so I like apprentice. But I noticed they had all these gold records on the wall. He was also a manager of the rock band Kiss. So
Wow.
I got to work in the music. So when you work in Howard's office, you worked at everything.
French Kiss. See, kisses
There we go.
surround you.
And I dated Gene Simmons for a couple years.
Ooh.
Lovely man, really smart guy. And so that was an interesting, foray, and it was really interesting. Always wearing fragrance the whole time, always involved with fragrance, but never thinking to work in it or anything. So that's how I got started in advertising. And then I moved up to different agencies and to more senior positions. And so finally I became a producer. And one of my bosses was a copywriter, and he said, he owned it. He said, I think you're a great writer. I want you to start writing some of our commercials. And that's how I started.
Wow.
And so that's how
What are your most fun commercials?
Well, what I did for the longest, and what you'll recognize, I worked for Mercedes-Benz for 7 years, and some of my spots are still in the air. This is years later.
Wow.
So I worked for them for 7 years, but I've worked for AT&T.
What's the most fun, psychedelic, crazy ad you've written that we would know?
Well, actually, Mercedes, even though it's a pretty conservative company, at one point they let us do this kind of Fellini-esque film thing.
Already love it.
That was almost like a little beautiful foreign film. They didn't keep it on the air too long because I think it was too outrageous for them. But part of our job was also presenting work to them and talking them into it.
Of course.
So that was really fun when they let us do a film series. But I also became the casting director for those commercials. I became the casting director for Mercedes-Benz, and I cast John Hamm as the voice of Mercedes-Benz, and that was when Mad Men was just coming out.
Yeah.
So it was like a brilliant casting choice because the show was just hitting.
Wow.
And he played an ad guy in it. And I had a suggestion.
Yeah, that's right.
I said to my client, there's an actor, you may not know him yet, but the show is about to break and it's going to be really popular, and they let me go with it, and John's been great. He still has the job.
Wow.
I cast a lot of different people in Mercedes-Benz commercials. So I got into casting with them. But I love writing commercials because you're telling a 60-second story that gets people to buy stuff. That's what a commercial is. So now
and 60 seconds when you're lucky to get so much air.
And sometimes
you have the means of Mercedes, but sometimes
it's a 30-second commercial.
That's right.
I also did work for Glenn Fiddick, liqueurs, and I did work for Avon, for AT&T. There was a lot. Pringles potato chips is one of my accounts. Gain laundry detergent. You work with whatever the clients are.
And no
there.
perfume companies ever.
With Avon, I got to work on one of their perfumes.
I see.
Yeah, I got to work on one of their perfumes. But this is the ad agency has these accounts. I worked on Chase. I worked on a lot of different accounts.
How did you then say? Well, cheers again. By
Yeah.
the way. You must be thirsty.
I am. I'm thirsty.
Because I'm going to have you try a number that matches one of the fragrance. Because, dear friends, you're going to have the Big Pro, the top notch sniffer, and we'll talk about Sniffapalooza. Giving us comments on our line and collection of fragrance.
So how did Sniffapalooza start is what we want to know. Okay. So because I've loved fragrance, this is wonderful too. Very smooth.
I'm going to have you try number 13 afterwards.
I'm going to be dancing.
Oh, for sure. We love it.
I'm going to be dancing.
We want to see you dancing in FX.
I'm going to be dancing. So Sniffapalooza.
And I'm going to be French kissing, of course, because Dylan, you got to get closer. This is the French kiss. We all about lips here. This is all about lips. Lips.
So how did I start Sniffapalooza?
Yeah, I'm fascinated.
After all these decades wearing fragrance and loving fragrance and discovering fragrances and traveling and just being really excited about finding a new fragrance that I didn't know about, I started writing. And the internet came about right before 2000. The internet was pretty much out there, and I started writing on a fragrance blog called Makeup Alley. and I was writing on the fragrance, on their fragrance board. They had a makeup board, a fragrance board, whatever. And I'm a writer, so I would write about my shopping forays. And I lived in New York.
You know what I'm going to do? Meanwhile you speak, I'm going to give you a little flavor.
I'm gonna get a spritz.
This is number 13 that I dedicated for my wife.
Well, wonderful.
One of our first fragrance we developed with Olivia Giacobetti. And this is number 13, as you can see as well. I love numbers. With JCB, we do numbers.
And 13 is a lucky number, too.
Exactly, my wife's favorite number. So
Oh, it's perfect.
you're going to have to describe
Perfect.
both of the wines.
I can do it.
Ooh la la. So, please, I didn't mean to interrupt. As we do this, continue your fabulous story.
So I started writing.
Do you want to finish that, or do you want me to
I don't know if I
dispose
can finish
of
it because
Yes.
then I
Yes.
will just be really dancing and swinging from things. Although there are good things to swing from here.
Oh, absolutely. You're willing to swing as much as you want
Yeah, there'll
and
be
everywhere.
Well, by the end of this broadcast, I will be swinging. I'll tell you that.
Yes.
So you know what? I wanted to meet other people that love what I meet, what I love, and I was writing these kind of. I would write about my little shopping forays and I was working on 57th Street in New York. So my lunchtime was Bergdorf Goodman, Barney's, Henry Bendel, and Takashimaya.
Not too bad.
Yeah. So those were my lunchtime stops. It was right. I was working on 57th Street. So I became known
Just
as a
to
really.
celebrate the founding
Here goes
of your
our pop.
company.
Here goes
Another
our pop.
pop.
Another pop. We love the pop.
You see, it's coming up. It's coming
Here
up.
goes the pop. Whoa,
Boom.
good aim. Good aim.
Well, I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure you see that I had at least one skill.
I
is
see
to know
that.
where to aim.
I see that aim. You got that aim. So I became very known at the counters as a really knowledgeable
Wow.
consumer. I was reading about stuff. I was learning about stuff. I was smelling, sniffing, and I actually ended up knowing more than the people that worked at the stores. But I became really knowledgeable. So I would write about my little shopping trips, but I wouldn't just talk about, oh, I bought this or that. I would talk about the conversation I had with the sales associate, what her bracelet looked like, what the marble on the floor looked like, what I had for lunch. I mean, I wove a story.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so I got this following of people. I would talk about the fragrances for sure, but I got a following
the whole
of people.
environment, the storytelling. that's the
I
key.
wove a story. It wasn't
Yes.
just Karen, oh, she's on a shopping trip. It was like having an experience. And I got I got a following of people. My handle on Makeup Belly was Lion Girl.
Yes.
That was my handle. And so, because you take a name.
For sure.
And everybody knew Lion Girl, and I would get people would be writing. So when's your next shopping trip, Lion Girl? And don't forget, people all over the world were reading this, and people that live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, their nearest store was a Dillard's 30 miles away. So to hear about what I was doing on my lunch hour, which is 5 minutes outside the door of my office
a
building,
dream.
it was fun. I made it entertaining.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I make it entertaining. It's, I'm telling a story. So I knew I'd made an impact when one day I got a phone call from a store on 14th Street called Jeffrey. And Jeffrey
Sure.
was at the time, it was a kind of a cool little boutique. I don't know if it's still there, and I hope it is.
Don't know.
But they had a very
I remember seeing it.
Yeah, it's a great little store, and they had a lot of cutting edge fashion. They had a small beauty department, and I had found a brand, they're an Italian brand, called I Profumi di Firenze that I'd never seen before. Kind of fell in love with it. It had kind of Renaissance. The bottle labels were Renaissance-y. It looked handmade. It was just beautiful, and it was something new. I bought a couple of them, but I spoke about the brand on there. I get this call from this man, and he says, Karen, I hope it's okay that I'm calling you. Somebody on Makeup Alley knew you, and they had your number. I work at Jeffrey. I'm the manager, and I have to tell you, you wrote about it a few days ago, and the phone has not stopped ringing. We completely sold out the brand.
I love it.
And he said, why it's important is because we were going to bounce it out of the store because it wasn't selling. Because people didn't know about it.
That's
He says,
it.
now we're making a huge reorder and we can't keep it in stock. And I just want to thank you. And I wanted to know if the owner could call you and thank you herself. I said, of course. So Mariana Babic, who lives in Los Angeles, she called me. She had found it in Florence. She was on a trip with her mother to Florence, and they found a little apothecary. And she said to them, I'd like to be your distributor. Do you have a distributor? He said, no, this is my own thing. She distributed in the U.S. And because of that, Barney's took it on after that, and she's made a success. So whenever I come to Los Angeles,
Wow.
yeah. So
We need a toast on this one.
so I realized the power of this type of stuff. I mean, I guess that was early social media, right?
Early social media. So, as you tell us the launch of your firm, tell me the the dialogue between the two. So this is made with Olivia Jacobetti.
Yeah,
This is
who
almost-
happens to be one of my favorite perfumers.
Of course.
I collect perfumers the way some people collect artists and paintings. I collect Bertrand Duchaufour, who is
course.
another perfumer.
He's here. Bertrand.
I collect Olivia. I visit her store in Paris from time to time.
I really like.
Well, this
her
has a very nice, clean. It has a clean, woody, almost. I'm guessing it has some ambrox in it.
And the woody comes from the barrels of.
So it
wine.
replicates. So like the oaken
So we
barrels.
created our own molecule to basically make this fragrance. So from the rootstock to.
Can I put
Of
this?
course, by all means, I want you to have it all over.
Well, I'm already
Everywhere.
wearing a couple because when I got here, I couldn't help myself.
And people tell me sometimes, oh, wine and fragrance are conflictual.
No.
Are they?
That's an old wives' tale. I mean that's a fallacy. And if you talk to people, I mean I once did a quadruple pairing of 5 art forms. It was fragrance, wine, pastry, film, and photography.
I love it.
And nobody was conflicted.
Yeah. No, but I love it. You're exactly right. I think they work actually
Now,
very well
so
together.
here's what I
with
like about this. It's clean and woody, but it has a little bit of sweetness to it. Now, they'll tell you, if you talk to a perfumer, they'll tell you how you can tell a well-composed perfume, and this is one. When you can't pick out individuals, say, oh, there's vanilla, oh, there's sandalwood, oh, there's, my rose de mai. I can't in this. It's very well composed. I get the woody, clean, maybe a little ambrox in there.
A little bit of rosewood.
A little bit of rosewood, yeah.
Yeah.
But when you can't pick out so easily, that's when you know you have a work. And this works beautifully. This I can see almost all year round because it'll work on a really
For
hot
sure.
day.
Yeah.
Because it's the clean
As I'm
thing.
wearing it today.
Yeah.
So-
And also what I like about it is it's not overbearing. Like this, I have categories for fragrances. Fragrances I can wear on a plane. This I could wear on a plane.
Yes.
Fragrances I wear in an office. Fragrances, when you don't want to be too perfumey, too in somebody's face. I'm going to put this one on up here, okay?
Wow. It's an honor.
I
Sniff
saved a lot of those.
Palooza.
So how does the Palooza start? So I
Yeah.
got this following of people. I saw I had an impact here. I said, wow, something's happening here, people. And it was the beginning of what we're calling niche now. I know niche has a lot of different definitions, but back then it kind of meant kind of under the radar,
Yes.
Small independent companies that maybe, they were in limited distribution. That's what niche used to mean. I know it's taken on all kinds of connotations. So I thought, I got this, wouldn't it be great to meet some of these people? So I did what I guess is the first meetup in 2002 of 3 other women that I met on Makeup Alley. 2 came in from Ohio and 1 came in from Queens in New York. The ones from Ohio came in on a night bus where I guess you sleep on the bus at night and you wake up and you're in New York. I had gone to my 4 stores, Barney's, Bergdorf's, Bendel's and Takashimaya. I said, I have some friends coming. Could you maybe have some samples, some water, and Karen, anything you want, So I did the first little meetup. And it was great. You talk about, your
So
jobs.
meet up, you get those people together around the table like I would do a wine tasting.
Yeah, and we visited the 4 stores, but I booked a lunch someplace.
Yeah.
And you're talking about your lives, your husbands, your jobs, your kids, yourself. It was a really but no one had even done this yet. It was just something I thought, wouldn't this be fun to meet these women
For
that
sure.
were fans of mine, And after that, I talked about it on Makeup. I was getting all these people going, well, I want to come to one too. Like, when's the next one? When's the next event? So I did another one a few months later. I had somebody came in from Washington, D.C. for the day.
Wow.
Someone came in from Delaware. Somebody from Philadelphia. Somebody came down from Boston, all for the day. And this time I went to my stores and I said, hey, I got 10 women this time. And I think I had 1 man. And
He was the lucky one.
yeah, he was a lucky guy, although I don't think he really cared about women too much, but it was fine. It didn't matter.
He loved the fragrance.
And we were all there about fragrance and just smelling and enjoying and multisensory. And my stores were like, yeah, this would be great, Karen. And so they did it. So then I was getting all these emails. When's your next event? And so my daughter, who's wandering around outside right now, looking. She's an extreme foodie, by the way.
Yes.
So she's looking at all the restaurants. She had one of her classmates' mother worked at Bergdorf Goodman on the 7th floor, the home floor, and I was really friendly with her. And I told her, I want to do this fragrance thing. I'm thinking about Bergdorf. Could you do you have any introduction? She said, yeah, I had people to introduce you to. And she wanted to get down to the third floor, the haute. She wanted to get down to the haute couture floor. She says, if I do this and it works out well, it looks good for me. So she made an introduction, and I had a meeting, and I walked into this meeting. There was like 12 people sitting there from Bergdorf's, and I made a pitch. There is a customer out there you know nothing about. They're consumed by fragrance. They live it, breathe it. They love it. They read about it, and they're interested in everything from the perfumer's first idea on the back of a cocktail number, a cocktail napkin, to the finished product on the shelf. And so it's not just about buying; it's about sniffing, interpreting emotions. It is a real, true passion, and they buy a lot. And Bergdorf was like, okay. I said, I'd like to do an event. And they said, okay. So once I had Bergdorf on board, you walk into any other store, they're like, Bergdorf's doing it, oh, we'll do it. Barney's was like, well, sign us on. Takashimaya was, oh, Karen, of course.
Wow.
Once you get Bergdorf Goodman, and Bergdorf Goodman is still a very big part of my life. I do a lot of consulting for them. But
still today.
But they were my first store, and they believed in this girl who walked in off the street and made a passionate pitch. We did the event, the first event with them in 2004. Yes, and I didn't know who was going to come. I just kind of talked about it online. I had 45 women and 12 men showed up.
45?
Yeah,
and how many men?
12 men.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Is it because they knew the woman would be there? Or is it because...
No, these were fragrance
they were really fragrance.
They were on Makeup Alley fragrance board because this is all about exploring fragrance and meeting at Bergdorf Goodman.
So you build your business out
and you know what?
From the world of fragrance.
And but I'm still working this whole time. I've been worked through all of it. I mean, and take another sip here.
Oh, for sure. Well, you got to tell me what you think of this one. So much less sugar. This was 8% alcohol. This is 12 and a half.
This is less sweet. I really like
Pinot Noir 100%. So this is your high
I like
end.
this one. I love both of them, first of all. I love the color on this one too.
I know. The French kiss is addictive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's precocious and vivid
this
and
one
wild.
I can see with heartier food. I mean, I mean, the other one you could almost use as a dessert wine if you wanted to. If you wanted
and having
to.
on ice even.
Yeah, you can have it on ice, which I think in the summer would be really great. But so anyway, I did the event. I worked with the 4 stores. Bergdorf was a great partner. I chose brands, and we did a breakfast where brands presented. And then all the counters were open to us. We did it early in the morning before the store was open. And then we went to each store, and Takashimaya was a great partner. And unfortunately, 3 of those stores are no longer around. Bendel's, Takashimaya, and Barney's are no longer, don't exist. Takashimaya exists in Japan.
You use an expression I love for you.
What is that?
Think with your nose.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on that?
Well, as a kid, I realized I was so in tune with smells and taste too. Yeah. Because 75% of what you're tasting is really what you're smelling.
That's right.
So I was so in tune with taste and smell, and I'm like, is everybody like this? And I realized I processed everything through my senses. I would smell something and I would say to somebody, can you smell that? And they're like, what? They couldn't smell it. It's like I had a highly sensitized sense of smell, especially if you're around not so pleasant smells. But I realized that I seem to have a heightened sense of smell and taste. I think with my nose.
And you think with your nose.
Because it helped me, a lot of decisions I made in my life, you know how
you smell and sniff a good opportunity.
Well, the power of sensory memory. You know how you can smell something and it takes you back.
For sure.
I lived in Paris for a couple of years when I was very young. I fell in love with somebody and I moved there. A very long time ago.
Those things happen, dear friends.
Those things happen. And we lived in the 7th on a little street called, back then the 7th when I lived there was not a chic,
today it's the top.
Now it's a very interesting. So it was a little street called the Rue Jean Nicot, named after the man who discovered nicotine. And I moved there to be with a guy. I was 19. He was 20.
You moved to Paris at 19. You're like your grandmother.
My parents fought with me in the beginning, and then they realized there was no reason not to let me go. But it was very interesting because I didn't realize who he was. He was a new house, which owns Condé Nast. I knew who he was, but I didn't realize the magnitude of it until I got there.
So he was American, though.
He was American. He was working in French Vogue. And we had a cute
Wow.
little 5-floor, and we met over a Thanksgiving holiday when he was back in New York, and he asked me to come back to live with him in Paris. So after a few months of discussing with my parents, they said, okay.
It took a few months, but you got it.
Well, today I don't know if you'd let a 19-year-old go and do that, but back then
I would let my daughters.
Yeah.
They're only 10. Not at 10, but
at 12.
Over 16, I would start, depending on the maturity, to let children really discover.
But I mean, they met his parents and everything, and it was great. And they realized, like, she's never going to be starving or anything. Like, you know, we didn't even know the magnitude until we started to explore more. And then, so he was great. And we lived in a little 5-floor walk-up and in one of the Rouge on Nico, which I visit all the time now. I go back to.
Wow.
He passed away about 10 years ago, but you know, it was an interesting part of my life, and I got to travel with that family, and I got to do a lot of interesting things. Here's something you would have loved. We had New Year's Eve one time. It was at Regine's. You remember Regine's?
Oh, of course.
So this is how far back this goes.
The nightclub, dear friend.
Right.
I'm Regine, and welcome to my club.
Exactly. I knew you'd been there too.
Of course.
we walked into New Year's Eve.
I'm going to have a toast to her.
Let's have a toast to Regine. Is she still with us?
No, she's not, but the club is still around.
She lives on. No, she lives on. Her memory lives on. She even had a perfume too.
Oh, she did?
Which I bought because I try everything. Anyway, we walk into New Year's Eve, and at our booth, in the corner, is Salvador Dali.
Ah!
So for
Look, he's behind us. Do you see the rose?
Oh my goodness.
That's him, and obviously
Yeah.
the atomic
So
line.
for a 19-year-old,
The atomic gala.
for a 19-year-old art lover like myself, he was there, and he I think his wife Gala had already passed, and he had a woman next to him with a live cheetah on her lap. And what he had done...
She's my kind of woman.
What he had done...
I mean, the cheetah.
Yeah, what he had done is he poured red wine on a napkin and wrapped it around his hand as if the cheetah had bit him.
I love it.
So we walk in...
He's such a damn brilliant
But can you imagine a 19-year-old going to a New Year's Eve dinner and he goes, come sit next to me.
Well, cute.
So I did.
Cute American. Yeah, baby.
So I got to experience some really interesting things, but living in Paris for 19 was very interesting, and I go back all the time. And
so it was in 1980 or 70?
76,
which is the coolest time.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well, it was a great
70s
time.
in Paris.
I mean, then you could send your daughter to live there because it was a very different decade.
For sure.
It was before AIDS. It was before a lot of drugs. It was before crack. I mean, it was, 70s were love and peace still and experimentation. So, I mean, a lot of this background filters in. I mean, living in
and
Paris.
made you who you are today.
Well, it's all experiences.
So, you know what I love
So sensory memory, that's what I was telling you.
Yeah.
There was a bakery on the block that had a certain smell, but the diesel fuel of the trucks in Europe, they don't smell like they do here. And a few years
the smell is terrible.
Yeah, but it's a heavy smell, heavy oil smell. I was someplace a few years ago and walking, and all of a sudden that smell was there, and I was right back on the Rue Jean-Nicot. I was right back in my neighborhood. I was right back. I've been back many times, but that smell brought me back. You know how sensory memory, it brings you right back.
Are women having, as we have many women with us tonight and who will be watching,
I love this.
Isn't it great?
It's so great.
And this is thanks to my lovely wife. So Gina, congratulations.
Gina, thank you.
Yeah, you're wearing Gina's kiss, and we kissing Gina.
So she's with us.
She's always with us. So do you feel, and I really feel so, this is why I'd like you to demonstrate to us why women have such an amazing sensory memory.
I don't know.
More than men.
I don't know if I can explain why, because it's one of those things like, I mean, some people do, some people don't, but you know how you could, like, there was a woman I worked with once who was really nasty, so whenever I smell her perfume, like on somebody, I don't want to be around them. Yeah. It's like, it's like it becomes indelible upon your memory. I mean, that's why certain things you'll associate with certain things. Like today, I'm going to associate today with your fragrances.
Thank you.
You know, because...
Well, I'll take that as a compliment.
No, it is. I'm going to associate... In fact, you associate certain things. You begin to think...
But women have that unbelievable...
And maybe it's because we are expected to... I mean, we birth out the babies and stuff like that, but, we're expected to
understand sensory through cooking.
Make sure all the details are covered. I mean, I know that with my husband, if like I take care of all the details of most things, our travel, everything, because
Are you listening, sir?
well, it's not really a concern of his because he knows I'm going to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
I think.
You complement each other.
I
that
think,
way.
yeah, I mean, I think it's because, but yeah, my daughter is very much like me. I mean, when we planned this trip, she's like immediately going into the restaurant. She has us in all these places right now. I mean, Mary Orland and my daughter, they know each other too.
Mary, great to see you.
Great to see you, Mary.
But you ladies, what I love, so for us as a wine collection of talent, we have 17 female winemakers out of 27.
I love that. That's great.
And obviously here within this lineup, Olivia Jacobetti did 2 of the fragrance with great talents. And we have a lot of lady chef as well, which I'm a big fan of. So women have that sensory
I think, like,
talent.
I noticed it with my daughter too. I mean, and I think, and I guess she got it from me. As I like to say when I talk about her, she turned out just the way I want. She got my personality and her dad's hair. So, I mean, which you know, she says, "Oh, Mom, you're going to say that again." But it's so true. I mean, I'm all about details.
Yes.
I'm all about details. I always have been. And I have a lot of women friends too. I mean, we want to make it the best experience ever.
For sure.
I mean, why not take charge of all the details? Like this trip we're on now is so detail oriented. I mean. You know, every meal has been plotted out. You know, my daughter, she's walking around now trying to find us dinner because she's been trying to get reservations all week.
Well, we
And
can
she's-
help on
yeah.
this one.
Oh.
I'm going to ask you this time to finish that glass.
I will
Do you
finish
think
it,
you can
but
manage?
I'm going to be dancing soon.
That's great. We want to see you dance. So there's an old adage who maybe says, "Oh, you're doing well." We're in Paris in the 7th. We had Chez Regine.
Yeah, we had, yeah.
I cannot believe you went there.
But you know, but that was interesting for a 19-year-old. What a
For
great
sure. Wow,
foundation.
what a dream.
That really changed my life because I became very comfortable with Europe because I traveled with that family and I became very comfortable with Europe. You drop me any place in Europe, I get off the plane, I can suddenly speak the language.
Well, and I think it's so
You know?
important. Exactly. And
You know.
you're very, very cultural and cultured, both. And it's so important for people
Yeah.
to realize with their kids, send them away. Traveling is the
That's an
form.
experience, different foods, different cultures.
That's it.
Like with my daughter who she's
Look at
25
this.
now.
Look at this one. Push it, push it. Just push it like this.
I'm afraid.
No. Woo! You did it!
I did it.
Yeah, baby, yes!
Yeah, baby, and it didn't break anything either. I'm like
oh,
more
yes.
nervous that
This
I would
is
break
in
something.
Jen's eye.
Yeah.
You just reach for her eye. Oh, she loves it. She's great. We should be fine.
Yeah. So Symphopalooza came out of my fact I wanted to meet other people that love what I love, that shared my passion, kindred
Yeah.
spirits. And so I started this group like that. I started walking, you know, I did it with Bergdorf. I called them back 6 months later after we did the first event, was so successful. Every brand came over to me. Who are you?
Yes.
Why haven't we heard of you? Where do you? I said, I'm just like a really nice, passionate person, you know. And I called back 6 months later to do it again. It was very successful. A lot of shopping. That's how the store measures it. And the people I'd worked with, they all had moved on. You know, it's like a revolving door in retail, I guess. And then one woman goes, "Wait, hold on for a minute. You're Karen Dubin, right?" She comes back. She says, "I just spoke to Mr. Bill Brobson. He was the general manager at Bergdorf then. He's not there anymore. He said, give Karen Dubin whatever she wants."
I love
So
it.
I never had to call them again. They called
So
me.
it became an incredible success.
Well, now it's a 3-day a weekend event. And when we
Wow.
get back, I became known for live events. That's what Symphopalooza is.
So how do people explain to everyone how can they join?
Yeah.
How can they participate?
Really easy. You go on sniffapalooza.com and you sign up on our mailing list. For the last year, I've been doing virtual events because
Yeah.
you can't do. Although we did have our first live one a few weeks
So
ago.
you send the fragrance?
The
You have a
fragrance
kit?
the fragrance company sends a sample kit. Yeah,
Great.
Yeah,
Great.
I've been working with a lot of companies, and I think we should do one with you. I really do.
I'm
But,
ready.
So
I'm gonna have you try
so
something.
the one that we just sent an invite out today, our 5th one with Diptyque in the last few months.
Great.
So if they keep calling me back, they must be doing pretty well. We've done 5 with Diptyque.
That's
yeah,
your
yeah.
friend, Mr. Duchafour.
Yeah, he's great.
Oh,
And I have a really
I'm going again. It's another layer. Who said we cannot
Now,
blend
this is
fragrance?
This is very almost classic eau de toilette. You know what I
That's
mean?
it.
Is
The
that- is
brief was an eau de cologne.
Oh, are you kidding me? Okay.
Orange
yeah.
verte
It's an eau de
Hermès.
cologne. Classic a little bit of citrus, a little bit of lavender, a little
Yeah.
bit of green. This is classic
Orange zest.
Orange zest. I love this. Perfect.
Dedicated for my lovely daughter, Honorée Josephine. I love you. Honoré's favorite number
Yeah.
is 11. So in this case.
Oh, so that's 11. So
Yeah, we're going to try 8 as I poured you 8, which is my other daughter.
Okay, so we have.
I make everything in 2.
So we have Honorée
2
Josephine
wives,
is one daughter.
2 children. Oh, sorry, 1 wife. What did I say? 2 wives?
Oops. It's the wine talking. It's the
Sorry,
wine
Gina, Gino, Gina, 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 na, na, na,
Gina knows. Believe me, she knows. So okay, she knows you, right? Okay.
She has a nose, yes.
Yeah.
A good
she
nose.
knows.
She's
she
a
has
good winemaker.
Yeah. So we have Honorée Josephine and
Grace Antoinette. So Honorée loves the countryside. She loves
Yeah.
walking in the forest. We do a lot of exercise together and sports. And she really reminds me of my grandmother with whom we did mushroom hunting.
oh wow.
We went, in the beautiful oak trees of Burgundy and we harvested the cèpe, the mori, the girole, all the great, mushrooms. And Honorée smells everything. She's like,
So she's got it from you.
Oh,
she
like you?
She's cute. Well, that's what happened with my daughter.
Yeah.
From birth, I was surrounding her with this stuff. That's why,
right.
and I tell her that's why that's why you're a chemical engineer. The chemicals that were surrounding
Wow.
you. But she started to smell, and she started with soap too. It's really funny.
It's cool.
Yeah. I mean, it was.
Well,
just-
it's easier with soap.
It's
We
easy.
use it, we put it on our skin.
Well, I found we had gone to a fragrance. I was always pushing that baby carriage around, taking her into stores, and we went into there was a brand called Fresh that had
Yeah.
just started, and
Remember Fresh?
they had a store. I live in the Upper East Side, and there was a store there on Madison, and I went in there and I became friendly with them, and I'd take her in there, and I'd give her soaps to smell. One day I come home and I saw she took one of the soaps and put it in.
She stole it.
She stole the soap. So
Let's cheer.
there you go. And
Did she 20 years later return it?
I called the manager and I said, I just saw that she it was a tester soap.
What did he say?
He said, I'm happy she has it. I love your daughter. He says, when she comes in, I'm going to give her a whole bunch of stuff. And so the next time I brought her in, and she got really friendly with
You
this
were
manager.
so honest.
Well,
Have you always been so honest?
no.
Good. I was hoping. So you know our friend very well.
Yes.
So what do you think of
So-
that fragrance?
Well, so here's the interesting thing about Bertrand. I met him through Francois Duquesne,
Yeah.
our mutual friend. Because
Francois, we love you.
cheers to Francois.
Santé to Francois and
Cheers.
his beautiful wife Celeste.
Yeah, she's and he has great kids too. So Francois and I became friends early on. He found Palooza early on. I had a lot of brands that found us early on because they realized, hey, they have all these fragrance lovers,
Yeah.
people really interested and appreciate fragrance. I mean, and he was president of L'Artisan Parfumeur at the time.
Yeah.
And so we started doing events with L'Artisan in their shops. This is great, by the way. I feel like
you.
it's giving me energy.
Well, we're talking, Dylan, we got to go close.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
soon
Dylan.
we're going to try
Dylan, you gotta
Sample
get this, Dylan.
Look at that, Dylan. We're talking cleavage, we're talking energy, we're talking, lips.
I'm not
we're
showing any
talking
cleavage, but there's some down
Well,
there.
I feel it. There is some. Ooh.
There's some down there. I'm not
Are
showing
you all
today.
jealous? I will not share it. I love to share, but that one I won't.
So we became great friends, and he was smart. He saw you have this group of really people who appreciate and love fragrance,
Yes.
and the whole fragrance industry embraced us a lot.
Well, and you have an insane personality,
Yeah.
phenomenal
But,
personality. That's the beauty
When
of
I
it.
set out for Palooza, and I really never made it into a business. It's not really a business. I never made it into that. I never figured out how to do that. Everything was on a barter exchange to begin with. Yeah, I don't really make a business out of it. It's more, I do it for love. I really
Yeah.
do it for love.
Dear
And
friends, have you heard this?
yeah, I do it
Doing
for love.
something for love is sometimes very important.
I never figured out how to make a business.
Same with me here
Yeah.
yet.
I mean,
Because we just started with a fragrance.
and I love all the brands I work with. I mean, some of them are little tiny startups with, like one guy who's, keeping his day job because, he's trying to nurture his brand.
course.
I never really made it into a business so much. It's really for passion. But things happen from it that I never planned on.
Like?
I've gotten a lot of awards from the fragrance industry, and I never expected
Yeah, tell
any
us
of it.
about those because, dear friends,
Well,
when you don't know, but someone knows and help you to see And discovering you something very
Yeah.
special, which happens to you.
Yeah, I mean, I got the award, the CEW award from IFF, the Great Idea in Fragrance Innovation. That has never gone to anybody that didn't actually work in the industry. And when it was so funny. I'm a member of CEW, Cosmetic Executive Women,
Of course.
and I get a call from the president of it. Also, her name escapes me. Carlotta Jacobson.
Yeah.
And I thought it was because I hadn't paid my dues. So she calls, "Hi Karen, it's Carlotta from CW." I said, "Oh, Carlotta, I'm going to go on right now with my credit card. I'm so sorry, I'm late on the dues." She laughs. She says, "That's not why I'm calling you." She says, "I'm calling you because you are our honoree for the IFF award, the Great Idea in Fragrance Innovation." Well, I can't even tell you what that meant to me. I started Sivapalooza to meet other people, and now I have 500,000 people to talk to about perfume worldwide. I have a really big following, especially in Germany and Russia.
500,000 people?
Yeah, to talk to you about fragrance, and there's probably even more I don't know about because
It's going to be a lot more after tonight.
Hopefully, yeah. And I didn't do this for any kind of recognition. And this award from CAW, when you look at the other people that got it, they've been working for the Lauder Company for 30 years, or they worked at Nordstrom for 25 years. I mean, all the other honorees are people that have made this their job. It was never my job. So.
And sometimes it's how the best success come about.
So I got really emotional, and she says, "We've been talking about you for 5 years," and finally somebody said, "Oh my God, we have to give it to this woman already. I mean, look what she's done." So I got the IFF award, and I had a lunch with I was nominated by IFF, and they did an opening, and they did a film about me. It was really great. They did a whole film about me, and I had lunch with the CEO, and we talked and everything, and why they chose me. And he says, "You started a movement." And
wow.
That's what it was.
Dear friends, to start a movement, which is non-political movement.
Right,
we're talking about a censoring movement.
Fragrance lovers now had a place to go. They had a home. But what happened from it that I never planned on was that it gave the consumer a voice. People, I now had Givaudan, IFF, Simrise, Mon, Robert Tay coming to me saying, "Could we do a focus group with some of your people?"
All the best, molecule maker, ingredient maker.
I mean, the top tier, Takasago, they were all coming to me. "Could we do focus groups with your people? Because we appreciate fragrance. We appreciate what the perfumer does." And when I talk about Sivapalooza, it is an international event-based organization for fragrance enthusiasts. I have a lot of people from the industry there. I have a lot of perfumers are members. But we celebrate fragrance as an art, and perfumers are considered artists to us. So we really appreciate it. It's not just about this smells good or I want to buy this. It's about appreciation for the art of perfumery. And it goes way beyond
appreciation for the art of perfumery.
And it goes way beyond just, this perfume or that perfume. It is a whole underground, well, it was underground, it's not so much anymore, but of people that loved it. And that's who I wanted to meet, and that's who I ended up meeting. But what happened was I gave the consumer a voice. Now the Lauder Company was coming to me and saying, "We're thinking about a new fragrance for Tom Ford. Can we send your group some samples to talk about first, to tell us what you think?" So I realized the power.
Wow.
So we now became important as consumers. And then at the Fragrance Foundation Awards, it used to be called the Fifi Awards. Now they're the Fragrance Foundation Awards. When Prada Iris won, it used to be like a account executive would accept the award. About 5 years ago, the Prada Iris sent one, and they said, maybe more than 5 years ago, Rochelle Bloom was the president. We used to do a lot with the Fragrance Foundation. We don't so much anymore because it's a different institution. But she said, "We're going to call the perfumer up to accept the award." And she says, "And Karen, I want to thank you and Sivapalooza because you wanted to know who the artist was." It used to be with perfume, you didn't know who the perfumer was.
No one was behind.
I mean, before Frederick Malle, nobody knew, and nobody really wanted to talk about it. In fact, the Lauder Company still wants you to think Mrs. Lauder is cooking it up, even though she's passed on. Ralph Lauren Company, lovely company, still wants you to think Ralph went to the ranch and did it, and that's okay. I mean, we don't always need to know, but she said, "We want to thank you," and she looked right at me, and I said, "Oh my God, they're doing this because of me." So I realized I did a few things here, not setting out to.
That's such a big deal.
Perfumers got noticed, and consumers got noticed
That's it.
because of my intense interest in fragrance. I've been a judge at the FIFI's and at the Fragrance Foundation Awards. WWD did something called the smell test a few years ago with 10 experts across the world. It was me and 9 perfumers, like with all these perfumes. But my nose got recognized.
Have you ever been tempted to make a fragrance yourself?
I've had a few companies that had me make fragrances with them.
Like
and
this one?
Yeah.
Taste this. I know I've put my nose on it, so maybe you wanna.
Oh, this is really nice.
This is number 8, which is matching the wine, dear friends. This is the wine.
I'm getting a little bit of fruit here. I'm getting a little bit of fruit.
So that's for my other daughter,
I'm getting
Grace Antoinette. She's a food bomb.
I'm getting floral. I'm getting fruit.
Yeah. She loves those red
I'm getting a
berries.
little bit of a gourmand.
Very much so.
Yeah, I'm getting gourmand here.
This would be a Marie Antoinette type of fragrance.
Yeah.
And her name is
Well, do
Grace
you know
Antoinette.
the story about Marie Antoinette when she was going to the guillotine? Do you know that story?
No.
Well, she was going to the guillotine because she told them to eat cake. They didn't like that. And she was going to the guillotine, and she was a big fragrance lover.
Yeah.
And she worked with a perfume. She wore an orange blossom scent, and she tucked a vial into her bodice to give her courage to go and,
Get
do
your
what
head cut off.
Do what you had to do. But she smelled her fragrance, and that gave her like that layer of courage. So that's how
I did not know she had a little vial in
tucked in the bodice, and then
That's it.
that was it. But she smelled good at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the thing that made her feel, it's like when I travel, I'll bring fragrances with me, and they'll become memories of that trip usually. I bring a particular fragrance. Now this trip obviously going to have these fragrances in memory, but
Isn't it a fun one?
that whenever I smell them, I'm going to think of
So Marc-Antoine Cacciato helped us on this. You know Marc-Antoine?
Yes.
Phenomenal as well. So he's done 2.
So he did those 2.
This one dedicated to my wife, 2 daughters, and then I want you to finish with this one.
And I'm actually wearing that one.
100% amour. And this is where,
And this one also.
dear friends, we're going to ask the 2 big questions.
Now, in the dry down, because I put this on before, I'm getting a little bit of vanilla. Is there some vanilla in
A
here?
little bit.
Yeah, I'm getting a little vanilla.
So-
I'm getting a sweetness. It's very kind of seductive.
Oh, yes. Keep going.
I'm getting a little tiny bit of a woodiness too. Is there some kind of
Yes.
woodiness?
A little bit of wood.
So that's probably what I'm getting. So tell me about the notes on that one.
Exactly what you just described.
yeah.
I think you nailed it.
And the thing I'll tell you what I really like about it is a lot of oud fragrances are very overpoweringly oud. This is not.
We want it to be very seductive.
Yeah,
Very
it is very
charming.
seductive, and this
Very
is
Cartier
this.
reminiscent of the
Yeah.
must.
This is for someone to smell it close to you. This
Yes.
is not for the masses to be smelling
That's
around
right.
you. This
And
is-
they all eau de parfum.
yeah.
So maybe you want to explain the distinction between
Well,
eau de
the-
toilette, parfum,
Yeah.
cologne.
Okay, so eau de toilette, eau de toilette and cologne are the lowest concentration of alcohol. They're the lightest.
Below 12.
Yeah, like sometimes on a hot summer day, you just want to have like a light spritz.
That's
But,
why
yeah,
often I
yeah,
wear this
yeah.
in September or
Yeah,
August
yeah.
this summer.
The eau de parfum is a higher concentration. Sometimes goes up to 22%.
That's right.
Depending on it, and then of course a parfum or perfume is even higher. I've seen those go up to 40 sometimes.
That's it.
depending on.
And then we have the essence too. Because we
Yeah.
make those two
So that's
as
like
well
an
with Baccarat.
extrait. Is that like an extrait?
Over 50%.
Yeah. So that's an extrait, and that used very sparingly, and that is the highest concentration. Usually just a little bit of that.
That's right.
Yeah. So which one where would they have the extrait? Is that a different one from
Yeah, it's a different one. So it's the same as those two, but
those
as
two?
an extra.
But an extrait.
And it's in a Baccarat
Now
decanter.
these bottles are beautiful. I love these.
Designed by those fingers. Can you believe it's exactly the same as the die cut?
Oh, I see that. So
I wanted us to be very
so that's
consistent.
a theme.
That's
the
the theme.
theme.
Because,
Yeah.
those
So it's like a
sensory
cut
are my
crystal.
diamonds.
It's a cut crystal, a diamond crystal.
Yeah. So now, a few more seconds
Yes.
we have. What really inspires you to keep doing what you do?
You know what? At the end of the day, fragrance is so much a part of me. I like to say, if you cut me open, I bleed vetiver. I mean, it has become, since I'm 4 years old, it's become a constant every day of my life. So I can't leave the house without fragrance. So I carry a bunch of vials in my bag just in case I forget to spritz. I expect a lot from my perfume. I expect it to prepare me for my day, whatever I have ahead of me. If I have a business meeting, or if I'm going out to meet a friend, whatever I have, I expect it to work for me and give me whatever layer of whatever I need.
Yeah, I'm with you
with
for
confidence,
sure.
poise, whatever. Sometimes I just want to smell a certain way. I mean, they say, when you do fragrance, you're doing it for yourself. It really is for me. I mean, it's great if people think I smell great. I love that. But I'm really doing it for me. It gives me that extra layer of whatever. It's very hard for me to be without fragrance. Sometimes if you have the flu or something, you don't want to put on fragrance so much because you really, you're feeling terrible. But I can't wait to get back to it. I need it.
You need it.
It's become like a real part of me.
So that inspires you.
It inspires me all the time. What inspires me are meeting different brands like this.
Yes.
This is very inspirational to me.
Thank you.
Because you created a brand. So what inspired you? I guess the wine was a big part of it.
Well, wine was part of it, and many people say, "Oh, wine and fragrance don't work," which is crazy.
So that's like just a fallacy.
Yeah.
I mean, they really can complement each other. I mean, I work with a chocolate company.
Oh, really?
Yeah, called Two Chicks with Chocolate, where she has a chocolatier, Patrick Condon, who does chocolates that are wine inspired. So we did a wine fragrance. We've done many wine fragrance and chocolate pairings. I work with another woman who does miniature cakes that are wine and fragrance inspired.
Yeah.
I mean, and here's what I love about it, and why I do this. I think in a way, I love to show people things in a new way that probably couldn't figure out on their own. They wouldn't even think to do it. I love to dazzle them with that stuff. I love to come up with events that somebody like, oh my God, I never thought about that. And I love to make a difference. Like after you leave my event, if it's a virtual or a live one, the live ones, when we get back to live ones, you have to come and be a part of it.
Cannot wait.
You have to come and be
to do
a
an
part
event
of it.
with you would be amazing.
I mean, we launched Killian at at one of my events when nobody knew who he was. He did an event with us, and Killian.
Well, it would be the same with me. Nobody knows who I am in the fragrance world.
Well, but the wine world, we
have this little help.
Yeah,
that
which is
little brochure we wrote.
Can I take one of those with me because
and fragrance.
So now here's another cool thing that I do. I do a bunch of different things, but now I work for beautyhabit.com. Now I work for them. I am their personal fragrance specialist. It is a website. It's an e-commerce website. They've been around for 25 years. They do a lot of great niche brands, and maybe we'll talk to you about. I don't know. You might be. Maybe we'll feature you on beautyhabit.com.
Love it.
But a lot of customers, when they're on there at night, they want to buy something, they don't know what to buy, they have questions about fragrance, they'll write to me, and I will do a curation for them of fragrances that are there. And Beauty Habit also has a distribution arm called Beauty Frontier, and one of the brands that they distribute, two of the brands they distribute, Bertrand has worked on.
Fantastic.
So one of them they're called Eau de Dali, and they're from the Sirius Hotel in Positano, which is a wonderful hotel.
I'm very familiar with that fragrance.
I opened them up at Bergdorf Goodman, and now I have them I opened them up at Neiman Marcus. Now I have them at Bergdorf Goodman, and on the shelf at Bergdorf Goodman, we are right next to JCB.
I love it because we are at Bergdorf Goodman.
Yeah, you are. So when I go to visit the two Italian brands there, I can now send a kiss over right next to me. But so I rep that brand. I rep those two brands for them. I met the founders who are part of the family that owns the Sereners. I met them when I took Sniffapalooza. I took them on trips. Sniffapalooza was going to Europe every year, a different place. When we went to Florence, they came to meet us, and I became really friendly. And when the brand got into America, they said, "Would you be our rep, would you be our person?" So I work for them doing that. I work for Beauty Habit. I do a lot of things. Now I work in fragrance. I mean,
so you can achieve your dream.
I think I've achieved it. I mean,
to our friends now.
Yes.
I know, and not only you've achieved it, you surpassed your dream. Would you tell them a big message? We have friends from Asia, from Europe. Africa, all over after the last 2 years we've lived.
Yeah, I think with the
Just-
last 2 years, when everybody's life got turned upside down, and
Yeah.
we still don't really know what's happening. I mean, just do everything you want to do. Eat everything, smell everything. I mean, I'm now starting to travel again. I mean, this is our first trip, but I mean, I do everything you want to do because we just don't know what the future is going to hold. Try different foods, experience different cultures, smell what you can smell. I mean, fragrance has done really, really well during the pandemic because
Exactly.
people were spending time at home, so their space became more important to them. And I see you have a candle. You have a candle too.
Oh, we have 6 different.
You have to say, okay, we have to talk about that next time. Because,
for sure.
Because candles and home and ambient fragrance did really, really well.
Very successful.
Because so many
for us.
people are aware of their space, and also since they couldn't travel, they wanted to bring travel to them. I mean, some people are calling it armchair travel, where you can't. Let me take a sip here.
I know. Number 8. Here is Grasse
Well,
Antoinette.
you can't maybe you can't travel where you want to be, but you can feel like you're there. Fragrance will transport you. So I'm saying, try everything you can do. If there was something you were afraid to do and you can do it now, do it, because we just don't know. And also get vaccinated.
Karen, thank you so much. Karen Dubin, dear friends.
It was
This is
a pleasure.
so cool.
It was such a pleasure.
We love it.
Yeah, wait, I gotta
I mean,
come
can
back.
you spend? We spent just an hour in a New York second.
I know,
It feels
I know.
that we just started.
I know.
But it was phenomenal
It
that
was
you're
so
here.
great. I'm gonna come back and visit you again.
We cannot wait, and we'll
coming
do
back.
fragrance. We'll do candles,
I want to do the candles,
and we'll have a great time.
And I've kept my composure. I haven't swung from anything, so
You've been amazing.
we're doing good.
Cheers, dear friends.
Cheers.
Remember, Sniffapalooza.
The best stuff in life: wine and perfume.